Welcome everyone to MusicConnects with the Arapahoe Philharmonic. I'm Devin Patrick Hughes. We're so excited you're joining us tonight. I'm going to present to you a rebroadcast of a performance of Maurice Ravel's Daphnis and Chloe suite that we performed just a couple of seasons ago. The suite is taken from the entire ballet, but fortunately for all of you, it contains the best music that was composed in the ballet. This is a time during an organization called the Ballet Russe, which was a Russian ballet troupe in France that was performing to create this new idea of what ballet could do, what dancers could do, what kind of sounds that could come out of the orchestra. So the impresario named Serge Diaghilev commissioned some of the greatest composers living at the time, Igor Stravinsky, Maurice Ravel, Manuel de Falla, just to name a few. And this Daphnis and Chloe suite was created around 1911, 1912. And for any of you music history buffs who are listening now, your ears may be perked at this time in history. As you may know, in 1913, Stravinsky's infamous Sacre du Printemps, The Rite of Spring, was premiered, which caused riots, created a bloodbath. The police had to be called to break people up. The music was so controversial and so contentious. A year before this famous event, Serge Diaghilev put Maurice Ravel and the choreographer Mikhail Fokine together to bring to life this ancient Greek story of Daphnis and Chloe. They didn't really work well together. There was a lot of conflict. Maurice Ravel famously said that Mr. Fokine doesn't know a word of French, and Mr. Ravel only knows how to swear in Russian. Fokine was pushing Ravel to a more jagged kind of dance with a lot of sharp corners and a lot of uneven rhythms. And of course, Maurice Ravel is more this impressionistic composer in the school of Debussy, in the impressionistic paintings of Monet, Renoir, Cézanne, and many other impressionistic painters. So kind of smoothing out the corners and creating this fuzzy atmosphere and creating the feelings of something, not necessarily recreating that thing. For example, Debussy's La Mer was more about creating the feelings and the emotions that the sea gives to people and not necessarily trying to reconstruct the actual ocean. So what is Debussy's Daphnis and Chloe? What is the story behind it? It's a very simple story, as many ballets and operas end up being. Daphnis and Chloe are in love, two nymphs, and Chloe is ripped from the arms of Daphnis by pirates, and the god Pan intervenes and saves her, and they all dance in merrymaking. So some of the things in the music that I would like to point out before we get into it: Daybreak, the opening of the suite, contains probably one of the most beautiful musical sunrises in the history of music. Strauss's Also sprach Zarathustra, which was popularized in the movie 2001 Space Odyssey. That may be another example. And I would say Daphnis and Chloe's, this whole opening just creates the heat and the humidity, especially if we're in Colorado. We don't always have access to that great humidity. And just kind of the sun beating on your face, and you can kind of feel that vitamin D being created in your body. Another cool thing that happens in the interlude is, of course, Pan, the Greek god Pan, who is the god of flocks and herds and, of course, has horns. He chased after the nymph Syrinx, and as she was fleeing, she turned into pipes, and he grabbed those pipes and he sighed. And the sound that came out of those pipes, he thought that was Syrinx sighing and breathing, and it was her life and her voice. That's the famous version of Pan playing the flute. And this is represented in the interlude by our wonderful principal flutist, Evelyn Rutenberg. And the last part is the general dance, where the pirates are overcome and Daphnis and Chloe are reunited. And it's a dance in 5/4. So for any of you who know Rite of Spring, that came just the year after, you know that these 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3, this uneven rhythm that made it almost impossible for the dancers and the orchestra to remain in sync, really was part of the reason that the riots broke out and that the fighting broke out, and that shouts and jeers were so overpowering in the performance that the dancers could not hear the orchestra, so they couldn't dance in step. In Maurice Ravel's Daphnis and Chloe, the 5/4 dance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. It seems quite simple, even though most music is in 2/4 or 3/4 or 4/4. So that's a 1, 2 or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Getting a 5/4 introduces the idea of a compound meter. So in a 5/4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, you have to decide how you're going to group it. If you're going to group it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a group of 3 plus 2 or 2 plus 3. So it sounds a lot more simple than really a mixed meter, but in the end of the day, they're all kind of the same family. So pre-Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, the dancers would have had some difficulties dancing to a 5/4 meter. So to help them count out the rhythm, they ended up saying the impresario's name, Sergei Diaghilev, Sergei Diaghilev, Sergei Diaghilev. So you can imagine all these dancers just trying to keep the beat. And actually, as a conductor conducting the Danse Générale, it is quite difficult until you're really familiar with the music to really know where that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to give a very clear downbeat for the orchestra so everybody is on the same page. Because sometimes Maurice Ravel makes the 2 feel like 1 or the 4 feel like 3. So he's constantly throwing off your sense of musical certainty, of rhythmic certainty. So I think you'll really enjoy all of these aspects of the Ravel, Daphnis, and Chloe. If you are listening tonight and you're enjoying what you're hearing, please consider making a donation. You make all of this programming possible. We love bringing it to you, and we really appreciate any kind of support you can give. Without further ado, we're going to jump right in to the Arapahoe Philharmonic performing Ravel's Daphnis and Chloe. I hope you enjoy, and I'll be here on chat if you would like to share anything or if you have any questions as the music progresses. Here we are.